everyone, welcome, and please take your seats in our virtual Space Cafe today. So we are recording this webinar session and we will make it available on SpaceWatch.Global within a few days. We're also streaming the Space Cafe WebTalk today on LinkedIn Live. This talk was recorded yesterday. However, if you want to ask a question to our wonderful guest, please use the Q&A section on the lower end of your Zoom, as seen here. So if you hit that Q&A tab, you'll be able to type in your question and send it over to us. You can also vote for other questions. And please be encouraged to send your questions and engage in our conversation. Now, last point before we start, please keep your messages in the chat to a professional and respectful tone. Otherwise, we will have to take action. Now, ladies and gentlemen, over to Torsten.
It's Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. in Central Europe, and it's Space Cafe WebTalk time. Our Space Cafe WebTalk 33 minutes with Rodrigo Da Costa will begin very soon. Thanks for joining us for our talk today about in the rapidly evolving new space ecosystem. Users expect performant and secure services, and that's where EUSPA comes into play. As always, we appreciate your participation and ongoing feedback. SpaceWatch.Global is a Europe-based online platform for information in and about space and new space activities in a geopolitical context. I would like to thank all of our private and corporate supporters that showed their commitment to keeping our independent journalism alive. We really appreciate that. I know many of you are already familiar with our website, our bi-weekly and daily newsletters, and the Space Cafe podcast. Our latest one featured Geraldine Najar, and we released it this morning, about the commercialization of ESA, the Russian absence, and why ESA might just be waiting for your job application. For all our fans of audio content, we have also new episodes in the Space Cafe radios. So with Declan Ganley, Anne Anslan, Dr. Holger Krag, and much more are about to come. We also keep our fan shop open online for you to support us actively and become a real space watcher. If you have missed any of our previous web talks, we have an archive available on our website in the events section and on YouTube. So, Chiara and I met our guest at the EU Space Conference in Brussels earlier this year. It was impressive to see his passion, his inspiration for his work. So we invited him to our Space Cafe, and we are grateful that we could get our slot in his tight schedule. However, we had to record this talk yesterday, as Chiara mentioned before. But who is Rodrigo Da Costa? On 16th October 2020, Rodrigo took up his duty as Executive Director of the newly formed European Union Agency for the Space Programs, EUSPA, formerly the European GNSS Agency, GSA. Before joining the GSA, he held several senior project management, business development, and institutional key account management positions in the space industry in the area of human spaceflight, exploration, launchers, and R&D. Rodrigo holds a degree in Aerospace Engineering from the Instituto Superior Tecnico, the IST, in Lisbon, a master degree in Aerospace Engineering from the University of Delft, and an MBA from the EuroMBA consortium of business schools. And with that, enjoy our talk. Rodrigo, welcome to our Space Cafe today. Can you tell us a bit, what is EUSPA, the European Union Agency for the Space Program? And I think it's a very difficult name. What are the responsibilities and what is different to the GSA? So enlighten us, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be at this Space Cafe today. It is a real pleasure and an honor to be here with you, and also to talk a little bit about what is EUSPA, and indeed what is different from the EUSPA today to the GSA that probably many of our viewers know from the past. Yeah. EUSPA, as you rightly said, we are the European Union Agency for the space program. As an agency, we were created about 1 year ago. It was in the end of April, beginning of May 2021, when the European Union the Parliament and the Council approved the so-called EU space regulation that created our agency. Now, our agency didn't start on that day because indeed we were counting with more than 15 years of experience, hands-on experience as the European GNSS Agency. So there was a transformation that resulted in the change of name, but also a transformation that resulted in a change of scope and a change of tasks and activities of EUSPA. We obviously continue doing what we have been doing in the past, but we do more than that. Our activities are anchored very tightly in the space program and basically follow three main pillars: the pillar of exploitation, the pillar of security, and the pillar of utilization. And I'm sure we will have time to exploit all of those in our conversation.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm love to go into the details a bit further. But I think first and foremost, GSA, GNSS, so we're talking here about Galileo. And I think it's an absolute impressive achievement to have 2 billion receivers, if this number is still correct, out now. By what is the strategic goal for you? Because I think it's stated 3 billion, but that can't be the realistic goal in this vast market. So where are we and where we want to be tomorrow?
Thank you very much. It's a very important and crucial question when it comes to Galileo. The first thing, our first key objective was to generalize the usage of Galileo by having receivers on the market that can receive and process the Galileo signals. And as you rightly said, today we have more than 2.5, almost 3 billion receivers worldwide that can receive and process the Galileo data, and are doing that 24/7 all around the planet. They are in use in Europe, but they are in use everywhere in the world. Naturally, most of those receivers are what we call personal receivers, so mobile phones, in-car navigation systems. But there is much more to the use of Galileo than that. Galileo is already being used in other transport domains, such as rail, of course, road transport, maritime. Galileo is being used in agriculture. Galileo is being used in energy management, in the finance sector, you name it. Galileo is very much being used everywhere. So right now, the next goal, or the key achievement, is indeed about market share. That means making sure that not only the receivers can use Galileo, but that people factually use Galileo in the most different domains, and in particular, focusing also on some of the key professional utilization of navigation that are of advantage to our society, to our economy, in many different fields of our daily life.
So when you talk about these services, who is your user today, and what kind of services are behind Galileo and the other services you're operating? Because for me, it's a blue dot on my mobile, but I know it's just a fraction of that. Maybe you can help us on that.
Absolutely. Who are the users of Galileo today? Well, probably, definitely, most of us around this call, and I'm sure our viewers as well, are using Galileo whenever they open their mobile phone and use a location app to navigate, to order a taxi, to order food. They are using Galileo, but they are also using Galileo when they enter into their cars. And they navigate around our cities. So Galileo, the users of Galileo are in the end all of us, not only in Europe, again, all around the world, because Galileo is a global positioning system. Just to give you an example, when we look at Galileo, for example, since 2018, all cars, brands that have been homologated since that date are equipped with Galileo as part of the eCall system, which is the automatic system that exists in those cars, whereby pressing one button, there is an automatic emergency call that is placed in case of an accident, for example, and the position is transmitted to the authorities by using Galileo data. So this is the use of Galileo comes from what we call the open service of gas everywhere, called the public regulated service. This is a highly resilient and robust service that is offered to EU government and governmental authorized users. So if you want, is a government service. Today, we are as well offering search and rescue. Galileo is contributing to the COSPAS SARSAT search and rescue system with its satellites in medium Earth orbit. And this service is contributing to save lives every day through those beacons that are, for example, in boats that allow an automatic via satellite call of search and rescue operations. Galileo adds a particularity, by the way, on this service, which is what we call the return link, which is not only that the message of the emergency is transmitted, but as well, the system is capable of retransmitting back to the user an acknowledgement signal that its message has been correctly transmitted and received by the search and rescue team. So these are the three main services that we have today in Galileo. But Galileo is not stopping here. The ambitions of Galileo continue to grow. We are right now developing what we call the high accuracy service, which will allow an increase of precision, the accuracy of Galileo of a factor of around 10. And this will be fundamental for many applications. For example, applications in the fields of drones or autonomous driving will be key users for the high accuracy service. We are developing as well, for example, the open service navigation message authentication. This is a particular service that allows the user to be sure that the signals she or he is receiving are coming from a Galileo satellite, so they are not produced by artificial means, but they are coming from a Galileo satellite, and this allows much more confidence in the navigation message. Also very important for some key segments of our daily life.
One question I have immediately in mind when you said we have these 2 billion devices already out, or 2.5 billion devices already, I assume that my mobile will have it as well embedded. But if I'm like, how can I select it, or is it then, does it use whatever is possible? Because we are all used to GPS as the 3 letters when it comes to navigation. So I'm not aware how to select it. How does it work? Is it automatically, or?
Maybe Thorsten, this is also a very good point to have a little quiz or a little challenge to our viewers, which is to go to the website usegalileo.eu. In the usegalileo.eu, we have been listing since a very long time all the devices that are equipped with Galileo, and there is a section in there which is about mobile phones, and there you can find whether your mobile phone is using Galileo. If you have a mobile phone that you bought after 2018, and I guess most of the people do have these days, I'm pretty sure that you will be using Galileo, which means the antennas, the receiver, can receive Galileo. Then the system internally, of course, makes its optimization to use the best possible combination of satellites. If you have an Android phone, there are also apps in the market that allow you even to see the satellites and to have a look at the satellites that you are currently receiving, and you will see the Galileo satellites there. Unfortunately, other operating systems such as iOS don't allow that, but for the Android users, also a little challenge. Download that app and see those Galileo satellites flying over you. Now, this is about the use of Galileo. One of the important characteristics of Galileo is that Galileo can be used complementary to GPS. So a certain user, a certain receiver can at the same time process Galileo and GPS signals, which basically for our everyday life, it is a source of advantage. It is a source of advantage because it means simply you have not only the Galileo satellites in the constellation available to your mobile, but also you can use the GPS satellites to calculate positioning. If you think, for example, situations where you are on what we call a urban canyon or even a natural canyon, where you have a limited visibility of the sky, this can help you to better calculate the position by using different satellites. Now, I said Galileo can work in complement with GPS, but obviously, and this is very important as well, Galileo is autonomous from GPS. So Galileo somehow is also guaranteeing the sovereignty of the European Union on what concerns navigation messages and navigation services. Galileo works in full autonomy from any other system, including, of course, GPS.
I see. Okay, that's because I'm belonging to the group that can't see the satellites on their mobile phone. I'm an old-fashioned iOS user. So, however, when do we see Galileo in the full operation capacity? So, I mean, you're building up and you have the services out, but there's still a bit what is missing, I assume. So.
Very, very good question. Thank you very much for that. The first element, Galileo is out there, is fully usable. We have been providing services in Galileo since the end of 2016. So Galileo is there and fully usable. And what we have been doing since 2016 is, in addition, of course, to continuously upgrading all our ground segments, we have been deploying more and more satellites. A number of launches are still to come until we achieve what we call the full operational capability. For the normal user, it will not make a big difference because, again, it is already usable today. And with the number of satellites we have in orbit, we have already more than 90% availability of Galileo. So we are going to the last number of percentage. Then naturally Galileo will continue evolving. Galileo doesn't stop to evolve. By the way, our competitors, neither GPS, GLONASS, they continue to evolve, and we will as well continue to evolve with new services coming, more resilience, more availability. Of course, also precision is a point of attention. But I would say, and in particular, when we look at how much of our daily life, and I'm not sure we all realize that, but how much of our daily life depends on space, but depends on navigation data coming from space, the resilience and the availability of those systems is really, really important for our day-to-day.
Absolutely, and we see that unfortunately today, day in, day out, how reliable we are on this kind of services. But talking about your users, can everyone become a user, a professional one? I mean, sure, I'm using it as an end user coming with my whatever electronic toy or that has it built in, but a real user, is it somebody who pays for the service as well? And how does the commercialization of services in navigation, potentially as well as in Earth observation, works on your end?
Yeah, so the Galileo, and by the way, it is true as well for EGNOS. We didn't yet talk about EGNOS. We'll come to that in a moment for sure. But Galileo and EGNOS, they are, if you want, somehow a public service, a public infrastructure. So they are provided to users around the globe for Galileo, for EGNOS in Europe without any cost. So users can receive the open service of Galileo, they can use the search and rescue without any cost. Our governments and our governmental authorized users can use the public regulated service without having to pay any service fee or anything like that. It is a service that is provided, if you want, as a basic infrastructure. This doesn't mean that there is not a lot of added value created upon Galileo. And I think this is a very important element and a very important work that we do as well, because in addition to operating and providing the services of Galileo, we foster its utilization. And when fostering the utilization, a lot of the work is about helping companies, startups, entrepreneurs to create business models and to create new businesses based on good ideas on how to use Galileo for different sectors and different areas. And we are seeing in Europe a very dynamic sector of entrepreneurs that are coming with a lot of ideas. I know that you have had a few sessions ago, my colleague Catherine Cavada from the European Commission talking about Cassini. We are working very closely with the European Commission and with Catherine's team on Cassini, where we are doing indeed, for example, a lot of work on the prizes for entrepreneurs. So asking startups, newcomers to bring ideas on how to use Galileo and EGNOS and how to create more value for that. We have seen the most brilliant applications. And we have seen in our last competition from applications on how to paint parking lots in supermarkets automatically to how to better manage bees on a bee farm. So you can see that the level of imagination is very high. Now, the good news is that it's not only about imagination, it's about creating profitable businesses, and those businesses are appearing.
Okay, I understand this point, but coming back to, I mean, I want to go geocaching and I love it, but I'm getting sick and tired of the resolution I get, and I'm running in circles to find this cache. So what I need is one of the services you mentioned before, this precision or this higher precision. So is that a service I as an end user can buy, or is that impossible? It has to come in a wider package.
No. On what concerns the high accuracy service, we are currently undergoing a test phase. And we hope that very soon, and we expect that very soon, we will be able of delivering it to the market. As all the other services, it will be a service at no cost, so a service for free for the users that are equipped with the high accuracy service. Not everyone needs the high accuracy service. Of course, there are some applications that need, some others that do not need. But as soon as you have a receiver equipped for that, for high accuracy, you will be able of receiving the high accuracy service. Naturally, in addition to that, there are private operators. There are several private operators that are offering even higher accuracy and building business models on this type of service for particular applications. But again, the services we provide from Galileo, the signals that come from space and from our satellites, they are for free in Europe and around the world.
I see. Let's talk about safety and security in space and on ground, and they're obviously key to the services you're offering. But how are you dealing with blackouts? I mean, things that we have seen, which are unfortunate, but that can happen. So are these solved? Do you have now procedures how to overcome them in the future? Mm-hmm. Because as you said before, we are heavily depending on these kind of services. And mm-hmm. you mentioned the day without space or so, all of this. I mean, it shouldn't happen, but it can happen, of course. So, but then is the question how to deal with that.
Yes. So 2 points on your question. Let me start with the last one, because it is indeed very important. The availability, the resilience of navigation, in particular of Galileo, but also of EGNOS, is extremely important. And there has been and there was in the past a massive investment and massive dedication of effort in order to make sure that Galileo is more and more robust, more and more resilient. And indeed, a number of upgrades have been made to the systems to make sure that stepwise we increased in the past exactly that resilience to minimize and mitigate the risk of any service outage. We very well understand the importance of the services, the criticality to have them available. So indeed, a lot was done, and a lot will continue to be done, because we will continue deploying satellites, newer generations, etc., to make sure that Galileo is there and is there whenever it is needed. So this is very important. Then you mentioned as well a very important element that I would like to focus for a moment. I've said in the beginning that in EUSPA we have these 3 pillars of work: exploitation, security, utilization. I talked a little bit about exploitation when I mentioned the services of Galileo and EGNOS. I've touched upon also a little bit on utilization, in particular on what concerns Galileo and EGNOS. We may come to Copernicus in a moment. Let me talk for a moment about security. Security is very important. As an agency, we are mandated to take care of what we call the security accreditation. So it's the, if you want, the security stamp of all program elements of the EUSpace program. It was already true in the past for Galileo and EGNOS, but now with our new mandate, it goes beyond that. It includes, for example, GovSatcom. It could include Copernicus, space situational awareness, any element that is in the space program, EU space program, and that needs what we call the security accreditation, the stamp of the security responsible. This is within our mandate, and clearly security is an area of increased attention, as we all can see, and certainly we all understand these days. Then, in addition to that, we do security monitoring. Security monitoring basically means monitoring 24/7 the security of our systems. Today, we are doing this for Galileo. We are working on expanding the security monitoring for other elements of the space program, because security monitoring, again, is extremely important. Today, I'm talking to you not from our headquarters in Prague, where I'm normally located. Today, I'm in Saint-Germain-en-Laye, where we have our security monitoring center, a security monitoring center site. So I was paying a visit to the teams, and therefore I'm talking to you from here today. We have 2 of these sites, a prime site here in Saint-Germain, where I am right now. Our backup site is in Madrid. Those sites are redundant, and they are there to ensure that 24/7 we monitor the security, in this case, and for the moment of Galileo. In the future, potentially expanded to other elements of the space program. And there is a last element of security, which is what we call operational security. So it's the day-to-day security engineering, setting the requirements, verifying them, etc., which is also in our responsibility. When we look at security and the link of security and space, we always look at it from 2 different angles. The first angle is, how do we make sure that our systems are secure, are resilient against cyber threats, against physical threats, etc. These, indeed, security monitoring is a key pillar, because it's what allows us to visualize 24/7 what is going on, if there is anything happening, and if there is anything happening, to react, and react timely. The second element on which we look at is, how can space, and in particular the EUSpace program, contribute to the security of the Union? Here, again, governmental services. I've already mentioned, when I talked about Galileo, the public regulated service. it is becoming, and it will more and more become in the future, a key service for our governments, our governmental authorized users, be it police, firemen, civil protection, but also eventually in areas, in military areas. But there is more than that. Right now, we are starting the development of GovSatcom, which will give governmental satellite communication capability to the EU member states based on pooling and sharing of existing capabilities in few of the 27 member states of the Union. But we want to, if you want, somehow democratize and make accessible to all the 27 member states those capabilities. This program is very important. Clearly, member states are very much interested in this capability. It is important per se, but it's also important, and now reflecting again in your in one of your other recent space cafes, is very important as a step towards what could become secure connectivity.
I'm very happy that you mentioned the Galileo Security Monitoring Center because your head of the center said a few days ago, and I think that was also in one of your press releases, ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of space data against cyber threats is a new challenge that we simply cannot afford to ignore. And you mentioned cyber threats are in the task that the security center monitoring center is dealing with. But how can you ensure that? How do you work actively on that? Because it's a topic that many satellite operators have in common right now. So what is the Holy Grail?
It's a very good question. There is, I mean, there is no absolute holy grail. There is a lot of effort, a lot of attention, a lot of dedication to this topic. The cybersecurity is a very important topic. You've mentioned the more than 2.5 billion users, which means Galileo is out there. Galileo has a lot of attention, and probably 99.99% of the attention we get on Galileo is a very positive one. It's people eager to use it and make the best use out of it. But there are few that that may see Galileo as something that may be attacked somehow from a cyber point of view. And therefore, we need to protect. How to protect a system like Galileo? Again, there is no holy grail. There is, of course, a continuous monitoring of the system, a continuous upgrade of the system, because the threats of today are different from the threats of yesterday. Working as well in network, and we work in network with other EU agencies that are, let's say, dealing with cyber-related matters. So as clearly as the head of the GSMC, Philippe Rosius, said a few days ago, this is a challenge we cannot and we do not ignore. It is something that we are monitoring and that we are following up very, very closely and very, very tightly. It is extremely important.
Absolutely. So we're coming slowly to an end, but there's an area I would like to tap in, and that's the European Green Deal, because I think that's something that's very close to all of us, and it's damn needed for all of us, without any words. So how do you contribute as an agency to the European Green Deal? And then the other question in that topic is, all these jobs or all this work that you provide requires really highly skilled people, human resources. How can you get hold of them?
Okay, so on your first question, the Green Deal is really on our focus of activities, in particular on what concerns the utilization. As we are a EU agency, all our activities are guided by the EU priorities. There are several of them. There are 4 where we think that space, and the EU space program in particular, can contribute more. And those being the Green Deal, the transition to digital age, the sovereignty of Europe, and a resilient EU economy. These 4 areas are areas where indeed space can have a very, very important fundamental role in achieving those goals and those priorities. Let's go for a moment on the Green Deal, which indeed is urgent, is a EU priority, and there we are working with our tools, our financing tools, Horizon Europe, our prizes, to foster indeed the creation of ideas and the development of ideas that use space data from Galileo and EGNOS, but as well from Copernicus, in order to achieve the goals of Green Deal. How can this be done? What are the benefits that space is already bringing to attaining the Green Deal? Well, for example, there is no precision agriculture without space. If we want to make our agriculture more efficient, as it is already being done right now, if we want to implement the so-called farm-to-fork strategy of the European Union, space is a fundamental part of it. And it is a fundamental part of it, the Earth observation component of space, because you need to understand and to know where to water, when to harvest, when to plant, etc., etc. So Earth observation data brings a lot of added value, but also positioning brings a lot of added value by having tractors that today are equipped with EGNOS. 95% of all the tractors sold in the EU are equipped with EGNOS. Tractors that are equipped with EGNOS are tractors that only dispose pesticides once on the place where it is necessary and don't do double passes, for example. So this type of efficiency in agriculture is fundamental. Let me give you another example. I hope we still have the time. When we look, for example, when we talk about smart cities, of course, transport is an intimately related to smart cities. If we want to have efficient road transport, public transport, private transport, navigation plays a fundamental role, but also Earth observation by making measurement of emissions, for example. So here we see all the different elements of the space program working together in order to attain the Green Deal objectives. I could cite few of them. Let me give a last example. When we look, for example, at the shifting towards more rail transport of goods and of people, one of the challenges we have ahead of us in Europe is the so-called interoperability, is to make sure that when I go by train from Prague to where you are in Germany, that at the border they don't have to change the lock and they don't have to change a number of things. Space will play a role in that by making the signaling systems across Europe more standardized and therefore allowing better cross-border transport and more efficient rail networks. So just a few examples.
Okay, so I summarized it for me in my head. So you provide these services you have today, monitoring and control of the assets on the ground. So that's what you can provide into the Green Deal. Is that summarized? Good.
This is one element of it. The other element of it is indeed to use our prizes and our Horizon tools by fostering the development of applications that support the Green Deal. We have right now, for example, there is an Horizon call that is open, that is exactly looking at that ideas that use Galileo, EGNOS and Copernicus to support the Green Deal objectives. Now, what will our creative private sector come up with? I still don't know. I will be glad to come back in the next opportunity or someone from my team to explain to you what exactly they brought, but certainly a lot of ideas will be coming.
We are a proud media partner of the Third Cassini hackathon. So for the Revisit Europe and to help you, I'm based in Berlin and we have direct train access to Prague.
Sure.
So what is fine, which I will take in a few weeks to come down to Prague. So let's talk about Prague. How can you make the work at EUSPA in Prague more attractive to people, to get more of them on board?
So the first thing that let me explain that as EUSPA today, we have staff in 6 cities, 7 sites. Indeed, we have our headquarters in Prague. We have our security monitoring center sites, one in Saint-Germain, which is here in the outskirts of Paris, the other one in Madrid. Our GNSS service center is as well in Madrid. We have our Galileo reference center in Noordwijk in the Netherlands, and we have as well staff both in Brussels and in Toulouse, working in particular on EGNOS. So even if we are not a very large agency, today we are around 250 staff. We are in 6 locations, 6 cities, 7 sites. So a little bit all over Europe. And obviously, with the transformation from the GSA to EUSPA, we are also on a growth path. So we are willing and looking forward to attract talents from all around the European Union to come and join us and work for us. Working at EUSPA is working at an agency, is working at a dynamic agency with a very set of challenging tasks, but tasks that can really make the difference. And I think I'm just coming from a meeting with staff, and one of the things that I've heard is people are very happy and motivated because they can make the difference. They can make the difference, as you said, as we mentioned just before, in implementing the Green Deal. They can make the difference in making Europe a more secure place. They can make the difference in making Europe more digital, and they can make the difference in providing services to users in Europe and also all around the world, because again, Galileo is used everywhere. We are seeing today a huge growth on the use of Galileo, for example, in Asia, and it's bringing benefits there. So I think this is, in the end, what brings all the intrinsic motivation of the people that are in EUSPA, and hopefully will attract many newcomers to join us in the months and in the years to come.
Absolutely. No, and I'm always fascinated by having the chance to talk with and so dynamic and engaging and inspiring director general or executive director of an agency, because that hasn't been the norm for quite some time. So people are very blessed to have you as their boss, I would say. With that, Rodrigo, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you, and yeah, hope to see you very soon.
Thank you very much, Torsten. Thank you for the invitation, and indeed looking forward to seeing you very soon.
What a great talk. It was really nice that we got to speak to Rodrigo. And before I let you all go for today, I just want to give you a quick rundown of our next events. So in less than an hour, actually at 5:30 Central European Summer Time, we have our next event together with the Space Arbitration Association by Laura Selensky, where she will be talking to her panelists, discussing the question, should we expect interstate space arbitration? So feel free to tune in. Then on the 28th of April, we have our Space Cafe Scotland by the wonderful Angela Mathis, who will be speaking to Frank Strang of the Saxford Spaceport. And just a day later, on the Friday, the 29th of April, we have our next Space Cafe Canada by Dr. Jessica West, who will be speaking with Maritime Launch Services about launching in Canada. On the 2nd of May, we'll kick it off with our next Space Cafe Austria by the wonderful Judith Delaney, who will be speaking with Thomas Kozenski of ESPI, and this will be in English. And on the 3rd of May, we have our 33 minutes with Dr. Jana Robinson of PSSI about the upcoming conference in Prague. And then on the 10th of May, our next 33 minutes with Nicole Talhofer of the BDLI. All our events are going to be online on Eventbrite. And as always, we love to hear your feedback, so please check in with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Don't forget to sign up for our daily and our bi-weekly newsletters. And if you want to treat yourselves to something special, become a Space Watcher today or help us out in our supporter program. A huge thank you again to Rodrigo for the inspiring talk and for being our guest. And a huge thanks to the entire team behind the scenes for doing this great job week in and week out. I hope that you all stay safe and stay healthy. Thanks again for joining us. hopefully see you in an hour and see you in the next weeks as well. And in the meantime, visit our website and follow us on social media. And don't forget, become a space watcher. Bye.